The Order of Light presents We Are the Disclosure, episode 15. With our guest, Priscilla Stone, as we explore the extraterrestrial phenomena. Now is the time for those with experiences to speak. We are not waiting for the disclosure. We are the disclosure.
I'm Robert Earl White
Hi, I'm Josh Miota.
with our special guest, Priscilla Stone from the Quantum Witch Cafe. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing good.
And together,
We are the disclosure. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Tonight we have an awesome episode with my good friend, Priscilla Stone, from her channel on YouTube, Quantum Witch Cafe. Amazing stuff on there. So, Priscilla, welcome to the show. And if you would like to, we would love to hear a little bit about yourself, where you come from, what you do, and all of that good stuff, and go from there. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me, and nice meeting you in person for both of you. I'm from Arizona, and I started this journey very early. When my grandma was a psychic medium in secret. She did not do it professionally, but I caught her helping spirits move on many times, talking to entities. And she read tarot cards. And Arizona is where I had my first sighting. And here I am years and years later. I studied molecular biology. I did hair. I've always been a student of different religions and metaphysics. The second I could read, I was researching. Because my first experience when I was 5. So that just led me to be like, there's more than they're telling me at Catholic school, because I went to Catholic school, and then met somebody in the Army and moved around, had kids, did the whole molecular biology thing in Alaska. And here I am now I started a podcast so I can talk to other people that are into this sort of thing, because it's not necessarily something you bring up at a change of command ceremony, because I'm a military wife and a mom. So it's not playground talk usually. And, so I started a podcast because I wanted to talk to people.
That's amazing. And wow, working in Alaska, working on biology, genetics, all sorts of wild things, I'm sure. And something interesting you said, your grandmother, you said she had these abilities but kept it real low key. But
Yeah.
you mentioned that you kind of caught her one time. Can you talk about that situation a little bit before we continue? What did you catch her in the act of?
Well, she was really open about being able to communicate with spirits. So she would say, I overheard her talking to my mom one time while we were sitting around in so-and-so's apartment, and the pillow dipped in like somebody's head laid in it. So I helped the spirit go, and I told it it didn't need to be here anymore. It could move on. And that was that. So I asked her about that, and she said, yes, she has a gift. And my mom doesn't like her to really like talk about it too much, because it freaks people out basically. And then one night, we were all having a rough patch, and I want to say this was like around the time that I had my first UFO experience, because it felt like that time where we were at my grandma's as a family. I remember a lot of like chaos kind of with my mom and the new husband kind of thing. And I snuck downstairs because I heard something going on, and I peeked in the kitchen, and here's my grandma and another family member. And she's got her playing cards, like blackjack cards or casino cards, and she's doing this thing and laying them out and talking about it. And I was there for a while before I got caught, and she's just like, you need to mind your own business and go back to your room. But I didn't know what it was at the time. So now I know what it is, because I've always been obsessed with playing cards, and any oracle or tarot card. Like I have way too many decks, but that's kind of when I noticed, she saw me observing that and was kind of a little more open about the spiritual experiences. She wasn't afraid of demons. We had some substance abuse stuff in our family, with several family members, and she would literally sit up and tell something to go F itself that nobody saw but her. And a lot of people kind of thought it was weird, but after seeing what I've seen, I know that she just was able to see more than most people.
And she was trying to protect others, protect her
Yes.
family, keep these
Yes.
negative dimensional energies away from people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
People would say
And
she was weird, and I was like, she's not weird.
How old were you around there? 5 years old, I believe you mentioned.
Yes, 5 years old, and I've always lived with my grandparents until probably high school, on and off.
Mm-hmm.
That's the simple version. I was mostly at my grandparents' house, and so they were. My mom had to work a lot,
and
so
you mentioned a UFO as well, right? During
yes,
this time.
yeah. So I kind of was familiar with the concept. I'm not going to lie and say, oh well, I've never heard of any of this before. My grandma also watched Star Trek and Unsolved Mysteries, so I was familiar not only with what she would see and talk about, but also with the concept of other beings. So I just want to get that out because I don't want to lie to people and be like, I never heard of it, because I knew what I was looking for and I knew what I saw that night. I was outside looking at stars when I was 5 years old. I know I was in kindergarten, and here in the States, that's 5. So I went to go find Orion's Belt and the Big Dipper because my grandpa had started showing me different constellations. And this was in Phoenix, so it's not like the clearest sky, but those are 2 that you can see. And mind you, I'm 38 now. I was 5. That was before, Phoenix was as big as it is now. There was a lot less light pollution. There was still bare desert around us. So I was outside looking for shooting stars because, again, I'm 5. I'm a little girl. I want to see something cool. I've always loved space. I've always loved stars. But I was also feeling like I was going to see something. And I snuck out a couple other nights, but nothing had happened. But that night, I kind of just had a feeling. I just knew eventually if I kept looking, I was going to see something. And I felt like I was going to almost... it kind of felt like I was waiting for a visit or like somebody was going to pick me up almost. I know that sounds super weird, but I just remember standing outside just staring up and waiting for somebody. And finally one night these 3 lights came on, and they were like a golden white, almost like the warm setting on like a ring light or like a warm light bulb, that color. But it wasn't they were self-contained like orbs. And they kind of showed up in the formation of a triangle. Initially, I thought it was one craft because it stayed in that triangle. And I'm just super happy feeling at this time. It wasn't too hot at the time. I know Arizona's hot, but it was at nighttime too, so I can't place the exact time of it. But the weird thing I remember is I found Orion's Belt first, and that's when they kind of appeared, which would play into a lot of other things that happened to me later with Orion's Belt. So these 3 lights kind of turn on like one at a time in a triangle formation. Pale yellow, white, self-contained looking. They didn't have a lot of the, when you look at a light and it has a halo around it.
Yeah.
It didn't have that.
It was contained.
Yeah, it's like a self-contained ball. Mm-hmm. And they started doing this maneuver. And they spun up and came down. And when they came down, they looked like the size of a basketball. And they did that 3 times. And I just remember being happy, kind of giggly. I felt like they were showing off for me because I was a little girl. I was like, oh, I'm a little girl. They want to make me laugh, kind of thing. It sounds kind of weird saying it now because I'm old.
They were dancing for you.
Yes, that's what it felt like. It felt like they were playing with me, or they were
that's
just
what
hey,
Jeff
check
said
this out.
From our guest, Jeff Crawford from California, lived out near Phoenix as well, saw a lot of stuff. But he said when he records them, we have a video of it. He's recording them. He's listening to the Beatles and dancing and stuff. And these things are dancing with him.
Yeah.
They pick up on that emotion you had, Priscilla.
Yes.
It was feeding with, wow. And you said they were moving. At first, they were 3 almost together, flickering. And then they started kind of going around. So they stayed
together. They stayed together, they stayed in a triangle formation, and they spun clockwise and up, and then they came down again. They spun clockwise and up, and they did that 3 times. And the lowest that they got, they were about the size of a basketball. That's when I started to see there's nothing in between them. But we've also heard that, with other craft, like the Phoenix lights, for example, people would say like, oh, well, it looked like the stars in between the lights. But these were different. They weren't like, people say like canister lights or whatever. That wasn't, they were balls. Like they were like pale golden white balls, which now people would probably say orb,
light ships. I call them light ships.
Light ships. That's what Lily told me. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
That's what it looks like.
Yep. And they ended up kind of like out of nowhere, just kind of lining up in a row, like 1, 2, 3.
Oh,
and they stopped. Wow. And then I was just like that moment, like what's going to happen next? I'm so happy. I felt so happy and loved, guys. It was warm. I wasn't afraid at all. And then they just like, boom, like gone. Just like you see like them start to move, but then they're just gone.
Wow. Like almost like they just faded out.
No, like they shot up almost.
Oh, they shot
up.
I
saw so they lined up in a row and then they just like up. It seemed like they went up, but I only saw the first part of the movement before they were completely just like gone. Almost like when you see a video of one of those hypersonic missiles.
But right before they go to hypersonic, you saw that getting to the hyperspeed, if you will, and then it was gone.
In a way, yes.
Josh, any questions on that?
No, very awesome though. How old were you when you first during this experience?
5, kindergarten, so 5. Wow. I might have been like 5.5. I don't know. But I was in kindergarten.
And I know this is a lot to ask, Priscilla, but going back to Jeff, he said when he was in Phoenix, him and his friends, they would be looking off over and there was a native reservation. And that's where they saw a lot of these things happening. In location to a native reservation, were these objects out that way? Are you able to know that? You were only 5 at geology, stuff.
Yeah, I still know the address and my mom lives at that house now. So looking at it, there is that kind of, it was towards like that. There's like a basin, like a dry river that used to be like a dry river basin, I guess, is what people tell me. And it is, I want to say like the Gila River area. Mm-hmm. From what my friend Steph was telling me. She did this whole like map thing and she was the first person I talked to this about publicly, so I would have to look at the map again, but she was saying like, hey, that's like where that basin is, where there's the Indian reservation or native reservation, and there is a lot of strange things out there. And then the more south you go, there's more and more. My dad's side of the family is actually I'm registered with a tribe because my father's side that borders Mexico, and it's just desert out there. So it was towards that way. Probably awesome. Like it was that direction when she was showing me the map, because I gave her my mom's address because she wanted to do, like, she didn't put the address on or anything, but she did like an aerial. The way she does her presentation on her Instagram is like she does an aerial view and is like, this is Phoenix. And then I was kind of able to see from there that there was like some land, but I've heard of that before. A lot of people seeing stuff there.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing connection too, going off of that other story. And, near native reservations, our people have a great connection with these great spirits we have for thousands of years. And I believe that they are more common in these areas because of, the military not really being allowed to go there, and other groups. It's almost like a safe haven for them,
Yeah.
Very
but you look at Arizona, right? And there's a lot of military bases, because you look towards Florence, which is south. I want to say like around Tucson-ish, that direction. Mm-hmm. And then you go north, there's an Army one. And then if you go, I'm horrible with directions, but if you go the other way, there's like the Luke Air Force Base. But there used to be a lot of desert. Like there used to be a lot of land. It's not like that anymore if you go now. But I remember driving with my mom, and there'd just be like cows out there and cacti and saguaro cacti.
Nothing.
Yes,
Nothing.
Yes. But now you go, everything's like taken over.
Yeah. Wow. So that was the moment. That was your first UFO.
Yes.
Sound like an incredible one, to go from a pattern of a triangle and then that triangle moving clockwise, counterclockwise, and
Yes.
then actually going into 3 lines
Yeah.
and then starting to take off before going to another
Gone.
dimension. That's incredible. And I'm sure Joshua's probably going to ask some of these questions, so I'll just ask one of them. Did you tell anyone?
Yes. Yeah. I told my grandpa. He actually caught me coming inside, and he was a smoker. And from what I understand now, he was a sponsor for AA as well. So he would he'd be up all night getting calls from people to be their sponsor and help them out and give them rides. From what I understand now, when you're little, I just thought he would like leave at random times. I thought he was always going to buy cigarettes or something. But it was kind of an insomniac too. So like he would always be on the couch sleeping or smoking in the front yard though, not in the backyard where I was. And I was coming in and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing outside?" Like kind of like he was going to get in trouble for like me sneaking past him. Cause he was in the front yard when I was sneaking out, I believe. So, he didn't see me go. It wouldn't be his fault. He was either sleeping in my grandma's room with her or he was in the front yard. I'm not really sure where he was, but when I came in, he was the one that was like, "What are you doing outside?" Cause I scared him. Cause like you just hear like the sliding door open and it's me. I'm not supposed to be out there. So we had gang activity in the street behind us. So we were not allowed to play out like past dark or we weren't allowed to play in the front yard because the road was super busy. And so I was just like, "God, I saw some, I think I saw a spaceship or a UFO. I think I said spaceship." And he's just like, "Go back to bed before you get in trouble." And
That's
just kind of like wrote it off.
You got past the guard dog. Your grandfather was the watchdog, and you got right past him.
Yep. And he was afraid that my grandma was going to find out. And she had a big heart, but she would put you in your place real fast if she had to. Demons included. She's going to tell a demon to shut up and get out. What do you think she's going to say to you? So
you almost lost my granddaughter.
Exactly. So, but yeah.
Wow. And Josh, any other questions going
So
on?
it's safe to say you never brought it up to your grandma then?
No, I don't remember bringing it up to her. I think that I mentioned it to my teacher at school in kindergarten, and it was kind of like the same thing. Like, God doesn't make that stuff. Maybe you need to go talk.
Said?
Yeah, maybe you need to go talk to the principal. Catholic school. Yep, Catholic. She was in. I remember her being a really loving teacher, but that doesn't mean they don't believe that. They don't think that. So one of my friends basically said, like, "Oh, well, if we believe that there's other life, then that means that we're not God's special children, basically." So that was kind of like one of my friends now. That's Christian, not Catholic. But it was kind of like the same thing. Like God he made us, not anything else. We're the only ones.
Lack of understanding. Lack of understanding causes fear, and then to just dismiss it because of that. Understandable. Right. It's a lot.
You're little. People tell you stuff, right? You're little. People tell you like, "Oh, you were making it up, or you're dreaming, or you probably saw shooting stars or something." But I had seen shooting stars before. They don't do that.
Exactly.
They're not like
they do not do.
They don't get that close, and they don't go back up. So
yeah, nope. And like what you're saying, I was a pastor for a lot of years. Oh, wow. I never talked about my family story or anything. I knew better. I kept it to myself. Yeah. Ironically, that's the whole reason I even believed in the book, because it was relatable to some of the crazy things I've seen, but that's not the way they see it. So it's hard growing up in that area, going to a school like that. You didn't really have a lot of people to talk to about it.
Yeah, no, nobody believed me. And I think that if I would have maybe talked to my grandma more, she probably would have been the one. But she was also... You
didn't want to get your grandfather in trouble.
That was it. Yep. And that sounds like a dumb thing, but he was my, until he died, he was like my dad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no offense to my dad or anybody that helped raise me, of course. But I'm saying that to be nice in some cases because I'm thinking of all these jerks, but, my grandpa was like, he was my guy. Like we weren't even blood, and he was like so close, he raised me. So, if I didn't want to get him in trouble, because I had seen him get in trouble by my grandma a couple of times. Yeah.
You
I didn't
bared
want him to
the
get.
you bared the cross, so to
Yeah.
speak. You know,
Yeah.
you just held it in and dealt with it.
Priscilla, did you bring it up to anybody in your class, like any of your friends? Your
No,
angel
I didn't
detector?
talk
No.
about it. I didn't talk about it to a lot of people, but I did know, like, I don't know if this was that's after that, everything's kind of a blur. Like, the stepdad happened. The little brother was growing up, baby brother was, so he's 4 years behind, younger than me. So that was kind of like a crazy time. And between like first and third grade, I want to say, not the healthiest home life as far as stepdad mom dynamic happens. But I did tell somebody, and I want to say it was first grade because I had another experience with it felt like a non physical being. But between that first experience and seeing this other being, I want to say first grade because it felt like a while later, I was having like night terrors and dreams of angels but didn't have wings, dreams of demons that didn't look like horned beasts, more like shadow figure type stuff was happening after that, after the first encounter or the first sighting happened. I did end up telling somebody later after I saw the next being, when the being actually was in the room while I was awake. And that was like a whole like joke to like my friend that I told. So that was like the next big thing that I would say had happened.
And the beings you said, some which once again, you're in Catholic school. It's important for everyone to understand that. And in religion, I want to make this point. Something paranormal that is positive, it's an angel. You get a good feeling if it's doing something good, it's an angel. With something paranormal that's negative, you get a demon. If you get a bad feeling, if it's hurting. But there's a big lack of understanding of what these things actually are. So,
Mm,
from your understanding, you said the ones that you understood as demons were these shadowy figures,
yes.
and the angels without wings you were describing. What did they look like?
They kind of look like glowing people. They look like glowing people, but see through. And sometimes, like, they're just like a glowing person. A beautiful, kind of like what people say, like an angel would look like, but more luminescent and not as like shell, like a human. It didn't have like the skin looked different in a way. The skin was almost
Like
kind
electric?
electric or light, like light was inside of it, of the in the skin.
Translucent with
Translucent,
electric inside.
yes, but not like lightning bolts electric,
Yeah,
like a
glow.
I yeah, it was glowing. And then the scary ones, some did look like grays, but mean, like like angry grays, not like the little cute one you see in your emojis, or like the dude behind Josh looks serious, but he doesn't look mean to me. The ones that I was having nightmares of and sleep paralysis with definitely looked, and I was a little girl too, so maybe they didn't look this way. Maybe it was that feeling of not understanding that
Hmm.
scared me. But the sleep paralysis with the pain was kind of why I was like, they're shadowy, and then sometimes they would get close and they would look like grays, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and when you say the meat, did they have a lot of wrinkles? You
Yes, they
know,
were. They weren't as smooth because I had seen some grays later on that had almost like dolphin skin, or baby beluga skin, like white and smooth and soft looking.
hmm
But these ones were kind of more like super wrinkly, kind of like maybe like the texture that's behind you, Josh. But not. But their eyes they were more like they were smaller. Their heads were a little more rounder, but still alien head. The eyes were a little bigger, more less going on here than the alien behind Josh, or the ET behind Josh. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't know. I know everybody's got these. Don't call it this. Don't call it that. But
Right.
the gray guy. It was like
you
more
can
of like
call them whatever you want.
Right.
yeah, yeah. So they did look grumpy to me. They kind of seemed more like loose skin than the other ones I had ended up seeing later. Their eyes were very like almost like a marble, like glass almost, but black, but very big. And those were like the scary ones to me, because when they were there, I would automatically just be filled with fear, and then and just not able to move. Like, it's super hard to explain the feeling. Yeah.
And but you could barely move your eyes. Am I guessing?
I couldn't. Like, if I locked, like, it's like once I saw it, it would freeze, or I would see out of the peripheral. But wherever I had like opened my eyes in the sleep paralysis or tried to open my eyes, it was like
You were locked.
it was stuck there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And my
Wow.
muscles almost felt like every single muscle was tensing. Like if you flex every muscle, even like the smallest muscles around your mouth and your face and your eyes, like everything felt like it was almost like being vacuum sealed or something. Like it was like everything was just clenched.
And that feeling would happen the second you made contact with this, or would you feel this, then you would see it, or was it seeing it, then this happening?
It usually happened if I would see it or I would feel it coming up to my bed. And I wasn't sure if I was having a nightmare. It felt like the space in between to me. But there are times where, so like, you know, when you have like a sleep paralysis or a bad dream, and sometimes you wake up multiple times. So I would get those nightmares and sleep paralysis. But the difference with this one was I was never able to stop it, and I was never able to wake up in the dream. If that makes any sense. Because I know a lot of people, and I used to get them too, like it would be sleep paralysis, like the one that's medical, right? Like, you know, this is happening. Oh, I woke up in my dream. Oh, I'm still here. And you keep like, there's like layers of waking up sometimes. These ones were not like that. These ones were like, nope. You know, you see something coming in periphery, frozen, and then like the whole body pain thing would happen. The clenching of the muscles. It felt like now, like those machines they put on you to flex your muscle. It's like a little electrode. It felt like that, but all over my body and really strong.
Wow.
And so, or I would see it either lean over and that would happen, or I would be able to turn, look at it, and then freeze that way.
Interesting. Very interesting. And you said you had those experiences with these grays and, you know, negative beings, you know, not that all grays are negative, but
yeah,
for you to have this feeling and that kind of, there was some sort of negative emotion either coming from you or coming from these beings. Now with these beings with this translucent, you know, skin and light beings, we'll just call them what they are.
Yeah, I think that's what they are. Yeah.
And what did you feel when you saw those compared to the grays and the shadow figures?
Now, something interesting would always happen. I'd get like the shadow figure gray thing happening, and then the next night or a couple nights later, I would get the angelic visitations, which we know now are like the light beings, because I'd have dreams of winged angels, but they didn't seem real. I knew I was dreaming, or I'd be like, oh, that was a good dream. There was an angel, like, you know, like the Michael picture hanging up, or the guardian angel pictures we had hanging around the house. But these light being types were almost like at one point, one had sort of kind of like given me the feeling that it was damage control. So like something shitty would happen. I'm so sorry. Something bad would happen and scary and violating would happen, and then these nice ones would show up. This nice being would show up and kind of put me in a sleep paralysis, but in a good way. Like, it felt good. It didn't feel invasive. There was no fear. And then there was no like, I wasn't trying to
calm
it
and
felt
sleep.
good. Yeah, exactly. The calm and sleep. And the one being that stands out to me is this. It kind of looked, now that I'm learning more people experiences, it looked like a mantis at one point had shown up. Was like the first being that wasn't either. It had like the mantis shaped head, and it kind of had like chevron markings on its forehead. Like, see, there we go.
Yep.
I had to email you the picture I was trying to do of it. Kind of like a real, more triangular, like a mantis shaped head, and the eyes were bigger. But it had these, it almost looked like scarification, but it wasn't solid. It was like a hologram, like that Tupac hologram. Like, if you got close enough, it'd be kind of see-through. So it was kind of a see-through being, and I don't know what its body looked like because I was so focused on its head. Because as a child, you're laying down and you're seeing this being in front of your window. For some reason, I was sleeping on the floor. I went through like a sleeping on the floor stage, and it was like there, and it was almost like iridescent in a way, but I could see that it had skin. I could see that its head had texture. The chevron markings looked like scarification, and the rest of the body was kind of like wavy from what I remember, but I remember the face. And it was like not solid. It wasn't like us. It was a projection or something. And its coloring was not one color. It was almost like orange and lime green, like very bright, almost like fluorescent, iridescent type, like fogginess, or I don't even know how to explain it, like light almost. But
Yeah.
so I could.
I understand you, and Josh was going to say something. And go ahead, Josh, because I'm thinking the same thing, and I've said it a lot before.
Oh, it just reminds me of Elena's story with the damage control.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it happens a
And the
lot.
Mantis, of course, too, is very, very familiar sounding lately.
Yeah,
They're kind of
a lot.
confusing to me, the Mantis.
And a big part of this damage control feeling that you're feeling, because of the prime directive of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, certain beings just can't come around communicating and interfering with things for no reason.
Right.
And there are a few instances where if they're trying to help someone or undo something that these other beings are doing to an innocent person, such as yourself, most time children, women, it's damage control. And one other interesting thing you're saying about the Mantis, all right, and how you were seeing it. And the reason you were seeing it, and it, like you said, was a hologram, the Mantis beings are masters at vibration and frequency.
Okay.
And some of them are in very high densities.
Akara are masters in the science of vibrational frequency and sonic technologies. Their eyes are able to see in multiple different light spectrums, and they have a sense of sonar. This makes the Akara mantis species extremely valuable to many other fractions, such as the Orion Empire and even the Galactic Federation of Worlds. These beings are amazing at keeping planets in the correct frequency and using their sonar capabilities, helping keep balance within that consciousness of that planet. They have been helping alongside of many other species for thousands of years now, doing this very same thing.
Okay.
And
yeah.
from what you were describing, it sounded like you saw one that was partially phasing in.
Yes.
This cloud partially in, but you could kind of see through it, but you had this orangey, which was the friction of our environment mixed with their green skin.
That makes sense.
And the scarring, some species of mantis have these rigids. They're raised.
You're the only person. Nobody ever knows what I'm talking about.
Some of them are raised, but it looks like, a knife scar, how it raises.
Yes.
So there are some species that have ridges like that. It could have been something natural, or it could have been one that was abused and was cut up, or maybe they have something. I don't know.
No, these looked
very interesting,
very purposeful, and it's interesting that you mentioned that the high vibration of it all, and also maybe it was phasing in, because I was like, what the heck? And then I was kind of like more like startled but curious. And then I kind of started to get afraid because I realized like this thing is here right now and I can still kind of move. And I was more frozen because I didn't want it to know I was awake, but I was making eye contact with it, which is totally weird, like sentiment to have or a thought to have. And then it was like, from there, it was like calm. It didn't say anything, but it was calm. And then it was bedtime. Like I just went to sleep. And then the next morning woke up like nothing ever happened.
Which something else I want to point out, because it's been a real common theme from Tyler Koala, Journey of Truth, that episode we did with
Mm.
him, Brett Larson in episode 7 with his Mantis beings. From the Mantis stories we've heard, which have only been a few on these episodes, these people having these experiences also have these experiences with these little grays as well.
Yeah.
Ironically, that they're always separated experiences, but it definitely seems like some sort of connection. Like the person will have an encounter with these grays, and then later on the mantis will be around, and then other fractions. I have heard a few stories where the mantis will be like standing in the background, but
Yeah.
for the
I've seen that
most
too.
part,
Yeah.
it sounds like the mantis will come and do something, their own agenda, and then the
Yeah.
grays, and it's just, I don't know, it's just resonating with the other stories that we've put out there. It's very
Yeah.
interesting. Wow. And you just said you felt really calm. They eased you. You went
Yeah.
right to sleep out.
Yes, yes. It was almost like when people are joking, they're like, shh, and they're like, it almost felt like that. But it was more like I felt startled at first and I got super curious, like, what the hell is that? What is that? And then I
Did
kind of
you
hit
have
me like,
any markings?
I never thought to look. I never really thought to look. The last time I had a marking was after an experience last year at the beginning of the year. But that time I never thought to look for markings. I know that like after these scary experiences, I always felt sick. Like I would always feel like nauseous in the morning and almost like flu like. After like the scarier experiences with the naughty grays or the mean grays, whatever people want to call them. Now I kind of have like a whole different outlook on. I don't think they're mean or naughty or anything. I just think they're working. That's what I think now. That's 38-year-old me, but 5-year-old me, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old me was like, these things are scary. They're doing bad things to me. And I literally felt physically sick the next day, like nauseous. Like I did a full body workout.
Earaches?
I always did have ear problems when I was little. And this
Yeah.
is and also what happened was a ringing in my ears before I was exposed to like heavy metal music, loud music. This was something that when I was little that I tried to mention to my mom. And she kind of was just like, oh, it's because you've had earaches your whole life. But there was a point where the sleep paralysis was happening so much that the ear ringing intensified to a point where at first I thought it was like cicadas or something, some weird bug outside, because it was so loud. And then for a minute, as a little girl, I remember wearing these stupid little girl pajamas, thinking it in my little girl bed, like hearts and frilly stuff. I remember thinking, this is gonna drive me crazy if it stays like this. Like I'm gonna go crazy because it was so loud, and I couldn't sleep because of it.
And did you ever have your eardrum erupt?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I know that I had tubes when I was really little, so maybe that could be part of it. But there was a point where like it was like the ringing wasn't there, and then it was there. So I
Wow.
had my tubes when I was really young, probably like before the age of 4. So I don't remember the ringing always being there because I feel like, if it was like a noticeable change in volume with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just too loud one day.
A big connection, and I want to throw this out there, and Josh knows, we've talked about it before, he's heard me, but a lot of people, experiencers, having ear eruptions. I had my eardrum mysteriously erupt for no reason. Throughout my whole childhood, I had really bad earaches. They eventually stopped, never had another one ever again.
Yeah.
Same issue, and I've talked to other experiencers, and it's been a common trend of earaches. And on top of that, when you would wake up after having these, experiences and feeling really sick in the morning,
Yeah.
did you have any sort of pressure or bad sinus?
No, I've always had headaches. I've always had sinus headaches. So migraines even, and it didn't stop. The migraines actually after having a child stopped, but a lot of weird things happened with my experiences after finally having a child, like viable child, and the the headaches were always behind my eyes, and we did have a car accident, so that was kind of like what people were like, oh, it's because you had whiplash. But I remember always having some sort of like headache that the doctor was like, oh, well, it's because your ears are always messed up, and then now you have sinus infections, but we can't help the sinus infection, it just has to go away, like that kind of thing.
They have an excuse for everything, don't they?
They really do. Everything. So, and the more I hear from people, the more like pieces are kind of like these the events that seem isolated to me. If you hear somebody give you a timeline, like after I had Geraldine Orozco on my show, she gave a timeline of this is how this hybridization thing happens, and I'm not gonna be like, but like when she was saying things, it literally felt like somebody was punching me in the stomach. Like, when you find something out and it really gets that adrenaline zing. It's like a zing in your stomach that goes up all the way up your spine. It's like that kept happening. And I'm like, if I would have had a damn checklist, I would have been like, oh, yeah. Yeah. And then right when I got off the phone with her, I like started bawling, or when I got off the interview with her, because I was like, this is like, I'm crazier than I thought, but I'm not crazy. Like, it's almost scarier to realize that you're not crazy, because if you're crazy, cool. Like, give me medicine. I'm crazy. But
Yeah.
something's, I'm hearing, cool. We figured it out. But when you're like, okay, I don't have any serious diagnosis of mental health. I did have anxiety. I do have ADHD. I did have depression postpartum with my kids, but never anything like where I was a scare for, multiple personality or schizophrenia or even bipolar. Never really got diagnosed with that. So it almost would have been an easier thing to be like, yeah, you're a little off in the head. But then you hear all these experiences like what you talk about on your show with your people that you have on your show. And then when I have people on my show, and I'm like, whoa, like, this is real and this is good and it's bad for me. It's confusing. It's clarity, but then you have like more confusion with it.
The realization of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
holy crap, this is real.
So like I didn't dream it. Like I know how to lucid dream. I know how to stop a nightmare. But when you can't stop the nightmare, when you've been stopping nightmares, like I was able to lucid dream at a very early age because of the nightmares. I was trying to figure out, like, is this a nightmare? Is this really happening? You just kind of like learn to lucid dream. And I know like when there's zombies coming through, or even like a super looking, like demonic looking demon, like with horns, like the whole like iconic demon looking guy, I can stop it. But why can't I stop it when it's a light being? Usually the light beings, I don't really want to stop it, but when it's a scary gray situation, why can't I stop it when I could stop Bigfoot, I could stop snakes, I could stop bears, I could stop demons, I could stop Lucifer, like I could stop it all, but not these guys. What makes it different?
The line of imagination versus reality beyond what we understand of it. That's what, because we are in control. We do have the power, especially with things we're creating. Sometimes when I used to play a lot of video games, Call of Duty, 12 hours straight back when I was younger, I would go to sleep, and guess what? I was still playing Call of Duty.
Yep. Yeah.
Except I did way better in my dreams because I can make every shot perfect, flawless. Yep. It's the same situation where your experiences with these shadows, the grays, the mantis, the grays, the light beings, all these different beings, you can't just turn that on and off, which kind of gives it some weight. There are ways that you can protect yourself, though, right?
Yes. Yes.
Have you figured that out?
I have, yes. And this is like all the way into like this is something not a lot of people are going to want to understand here or even believe. But once I left Alaska, I had an experience with a Moldavite crystal between that and having a child, something happened with my energy. And I started kind of like honing in on like who I was in the universe and who we all are in the universe as light beings ourselves. I It's like when people are always like, remember who you are, remember who you are, remember who the F you are, they are only doing this because you don't know yet as a child how powerful you are in the dimensions that we all go to every night and are also simultaneously existing in sometimes, most of the time, but that's another topic. Once I realized that I was essentially, I can make them stop by using almost like your own light protection. Like it starts with like your 3D protection. It starts with your crystals. It starts with your gridding. It starts with all your things that you like on this little earth, right? But in your dream time, you have access to your higher self or your oversoul, your astral body, whatever terminology you want to use. You're this powerful light being.
Mm-hmm.
And once you realize that, they will try to mess with you still, but it's almost like they can't hold you down anymore. And it kind of off puts them. They're like, oh. Like,
they can't fight the light. They can't fight the light.
And then you'll find yourself in other situations where you're like negotiating with like, okay, so yes, you're doing this. You're working. I get it. You're doing your job. Mm-hmm. Like your job is to be a gray, harvest things and plant things, maybe take things, put things in, whatever you guys do. That's your job. You're not trying to hurt anybody. And at the end of the day, I don't think they're really trying to hurt anybody. Now, there is other experiences where some beings are trying to hurt you, but this is not about that, right? This is about like the basic scenario that a lot of people have. You can stop them there, but you just have to step into your own power. As woo as that sounds, as weird as that sounds, that's the only thing that's going to make it stop. And sometimes people have to have like essential oils or crystals to activate things within their human 3D DNA so they can actually step into their light body and realize who they are.
To enhance our abilities that are already there.
Yes.
To just use them as tools, but you still need the main engine, which is our Merkaba, our light inside.
Right.
We can manifest that and put it over us and protect us and ward those things off. Beautiful. Love it. Yep. Merkaba power. Let's go.
Yeah.
Greetings, Terrians. I'm Commander Imanaru with the Galactic Federation of Worlds, here today to teach you how to protect yourself from negative energies. All points of creation come from the cosmic source energy, or your Merkaba, that can be found within all of you. All you have to do is imagine this ball of light, this Merkaba energy, forming within your very hands. As you do this, you can actually cloak your higher self from negative energies. I hope this helps. Thank you so much, and may the source be with you.
I wasn't sure if that was going to be too weird for you guys, but I was like, that's what happened,
Have you seen this show?
I have. So, but it's not something I talk about out loud a lot. You know what I mean? How am I supposed to tell people like, oh, well, there's this Moldavite one day in a shop in Alaska and I had to get it. Like I couldn't not get it.
Yep.
And then that night I go to sleep with it.
Moldavite.
Oh, you're a show off though. Look at yours. You got a Moldavite. See, you've got a pyramid. That's awesome.
I have necklaces. It's the only thing I like. It's very powerful.
Yes. So whenever I see it, if I can afford it, of course, I get it. But yeah, this Moldavite that night did something different. It was like sleep paralysis. There was no bings, but there was a consciousness. And all I could see was bright green, like the bottom of your pyramid. And it was like a fog. And then within the fog, there was all these little like symbols and glyphs. And they were just surrounding me.
Download.
And now I understand like more about it. That makes sense. And then after that, it was like that they would still try to do stuff. And I still do have experiences where I've lost control. But it's usually almost like they've caught me at a time where I'm not spiritually right, or my body's not feeling right, or, I'm weak at that moment is usually when these happen. Or they're finishing a job. I know that sounds super crazy, But yeah, these glyphs or whatever came inside me, and they're always there now. And after that specific mold device like went to sleep. It was like, okay, I'm done. I still wear it, but it's like it's dormant or something. But after that, it turned some things on where like there was this one little entity, a demon looking thing in a dream, and I was just like, oh, like, get off my leg. Like, stop being ridiculous. We're not doing this tonight. Whereas before I'd be like, it's got me. And it would just be like either a step into lucid dreaming.
A shadowy figure?
Yeah, like a little shadowy, like a little thing.
Perfect.
Like a little shadowy thing. Usually they're big, and maybe it's just how I was seeing it now after that. Maybe they've always been that small. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, when you're laying down on bed, when something's above you, you don't really have a,
Right. Because it could be like a dark orb too.
Yeah.
I've seen like these weird dark orb looking things before.
And I've seen energies, Josh does a lot of paranormal. We've seen a lot of shadowy figures go from what you're describing to something 6'8" my height. I've seen them morph. You've seen it, right, Josh?
In the physical realm.
That makes a lot of sense because it's stuff that I've seen, but I haven't had the chance to investigate. I really do want to get into more paranormal investigation, but in like this land. But I've been trying to figure out the other stuff first.
Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, it's all connected. It's all connected. And when you open, if like one thing opens you, and it's like the way I learned when I was doing a priestessing class is like it's like an energetic contraction or an energetic expansion. And whether your chakras and your energy ever goes back after that is just it's different for everybody. But some people stay in this like super contracted state the whole time and they don't know who they are anymore. They feel powerless. And some people are too expanded. And you're almost caught after these crazy experiences. You're like, you never go back to normal. Like you're in a fight or flight to an extent where you're ultra hyper aware of everything. And this includes other realms around you, including interdimensional beings, spirits, whatever else is in between.
There's a lot. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Wow, that's amazing. Now, Priscilla, all the way back then when you saw those, you were about 5 years old, you went outside, you didn't want to get your grandpa in trouble, and you saw those UFOs. And from your experiences, it sounds like for quite a while, these different interactions and even some still going on now, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
With all of that happening, have you ever had any other UFO sightings?
Oh, yeah. The little light ships. If I go and meditate and go outside, I'm going to see one. Sometimes I've seen them do like flybys. Like in Missouri, I was like at this weird in-between stage. I was like doing all this shadow work and healing and, all that stuff. And I know one night I came home from Sonic because we had a Sonic up the road, unfortunately. So we always got things from there. So I went to go get some of those, I don't know what they're called there. They're like basically shakes, but with their ice cream. They're kind of like the Sonic version of Blizzards. But anyways, I got back with some of those. And I look up and there's this golden orb just cruising along. And it stops. And then it's just like, it almost felt like it was like, what's up? Like, like when you drive by somebody and they give you the head nod. It felt like it did that. And then it just kept going. And then, like up in the sky. And I was like, there's another one. It was like,
this UFO was brought to you by Sonic.
Exactly.
No,
they wanted to try it.
That's amazing. So I've seen these light ships. Josh has seen them, and I mean, I know you had to because I record them all the time, and everyone sees them. They're all over. I mean, I tell people 10 minutes a night, go out. That's it. That's all it takes, and you're bound to see something. It don't take long. It's active now more than ever. Wow.
And people want to downplay it, right? But we all have apps for satellite tracking. You can look up whether or not airplanes are coming by, but also like the blinking patterns, because there's some that blink too, almost like they're trying to impersonate a beacon, but they're not. It's not the same tempo, I guess.
So, and some are. It's a pulsating, not a blink.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. It's like more like It's not so like blink, blink, blink like
And
the airplane
I
beacon.
use Heavens Above app. It's a great app people
Oh,
can
okay.
download on their phone. I encourage everyone to check it out. There's a lot of others. It tells you space debris, rockets, satellites,
Mm.
ISS, other anomalies, things like
Yes.
that. And it's very useful for sure.
But yeah, I think if people like, I agree with you. If people look for it, they'll see it. But people are like, I look all the time. I'm like, well, something in you is not truly open to seeing. Then I think that's a lot of people. They're
And
thinking with the wrong part of their mind or something.
it's is the best, in your opinion, the best UFO experience you had, was that the one when you were 5 years old?
Yes, it was the most vivid. It was the most memorable. It was like your first one, and I really felt like a super connection, like a really like they were there to be with me. Other times I have had interactions in the sky where like I feel like I'm getting this communication, but it's almost like I'm too busy now. I have kids. It's a busier area. I can't really like connect with them as easily outside now unless I go out super late. But yeah, I think that's the most memorable one. Between that and the actual gray that I saw in Waking in northern Arizona, I think those are the two that stand out to me. The holographic being, of course, but the gray one was weird because that's when I was so 6th grade, 7th grade, I want to say, when I saw that gray. That's another one that stands out, but that's not really like a UFO. That's like a being. So
And I want to go back to one other thing, and I hope I'm not going too deep into it.
you're
But
fine.
when you were talking about, when she was talking about the hybrid programs, and you were really connecting with some of the checklists and things like that, and you said you had a hard time getting pregnant. Did you have issues that made that difficult?
Yeah.
Physical issues surrounding that, maybe suggesting that these beings were using you for some sort of experiment? Did you have with reproductive, parts issues, things like
Right.
that?
Never diagnosed. But like I never had like a regular cycle. And the cycles for me started really early and they were not normal. Like I thought that I had my first cycle before I was 10 and my mom was freaking out. And then it was like 2 days and the appearance of it that came out was not normal. It wasn't like a normal blood, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of abdominal pain and cramping. I never got diagnosed with endometriosis, although there was a point in high school where I'm pretty sure that I should have seen somebody. But it was just kind of like the whole writing it off again, like, oh, it's just really bad this month or
Play it
whatever.
off.
But when you have it after an experience, so you have an experience, you're not supposed to have your cycle for X amount of time. Like now it's finally like I know when it's coming. And I know that when I have an experience, I'm not supposed to have it for another week. I'm a witch, so it's like every new moon, or it syncs up with the moon phases. So like I know now, but like
Do the
looking
do,
back,
do the experiences
no,
sync up with the moon?
they don't, but they will. Like
Okay.
I know the reason I bring that up is because I know that's when I'm supposed to have like my cycle. But if I get one like a week before and it's connected to like a sleep paralysis event, then the next day I'm having my cycle and it's the full body pain, it's the nausea, it's the like when I say full body pain, I mean muscles and joints. And before all that started happening, I would get like false pregnancies all the time with when I started becoming sexually active. And it wasn't until I really started doing spiritual work that I got like my cycle in such a way that my son was born. But before that, I'd had lots of like what they say chemical pregnancies. So like you
Oh,
take a
wow.
test and it says, yeah, you're pregnant. And then you go in for the ultrasound and they're like, no, you're not. The hormones are there, but you must have passed it in the night. It was just falling out of you, but never never like a visible pregnancy, or I never had like the whole missing pregnancy where you go in, they see a zygote or a fetus and then it's gone. I've never had that, but I've had a lot of chemical pregnancies that didn't go into anything.
And what sparked those chemicals? Sandra Newman, same situation. She had this experience of watching this gray being take one of what she thought was her baby, fetus embryo. And then 2 weeks later, her breast started leaking. She went to the doctor.
Wow.
She had all the chemicals of being pregnant, and that's why her breasts were leaking, and she had her ducts removed from it. That's serious of an issue. It's a lot of these.
That's an obvious thing too. That's an obvious thing.
And my mother, same thing. 9 years old, extreme menstrual cycle. She would bleed 3 weeks out of every month constantly. Yeah. And so many other physical issues as well. And, my mom had her tubes tied, still miscarried 3 times.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
You're like, how is this happening? Skin problems too. Have you noticed, now I'm not trying to interview you because this is not my show, but have you noticed a lot of people with like skin issues? Because I had like this whole body, it wasn't even eczema, but after experiences like inflammation, it almost seemed like an eczema flare. But if you've ever had eczema, those are isolated, almost like patches. This would be like a whole, almost like you ate something you're allergic to, but you didn't eat something you're allergic to, is another thing that has happened to me. And I've asked somebody else and it's happened to them too. Skin reactions to being in close proximity, maybe with these frequencies or crafts, whatever you're in contact with. Have you ever heard of anybody having like skin problems like the next day? Sounds so weird. Oh, the next day, like you hooked up with somebody.
I've also heard of a lot of guys talk about when being abducted, especially like the older guys from like the 60s and like the military, that they experience warts if they touch the metal on the ship.
Wow.
And that they can never get rid of them, that they always come back.
That's crazy.
I don't know. Have you heard about that at all, Rob?
Yes, I've heard about those, and there's a lot of radiation rashes, other things, skin conditions. Due to the testing that they are doing on some people, they're introducing certain chemicals that react to other chemicals. And there's just some naturally weird skin conditions naturally occurring in people. But specifically 2 encounters, like you said, vibrations do different things for people. Sometimes when I take a shower, I get little bumps on me from water. Water. How? Come on, the thing we all need to live. Like, are you kidding me? Just weird things. And it's probably because our water is filled with so many chemicals. That's probably what it is. But
we're bathing in a chemical bath essentially. There's no way they can get all these small molecules out.
Yeah, and I believe our bodies, when people are in these situations, a lot of them get a lot of weird markings. If they're not punctures, sometimes they do like irritations and rashes. But, it's just strange that they have these things going on the same time, waking up the next morning after having these visions. And it's there where, like Josh was saying, being around these crafts, touching these crafts or being close proximity of them getting physical side effects, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, like bruises too, right?
I
had one experience where it felt like something was holding my legs down, and it slipped into a whole experience, like sleep paralysis that I couldn't break out of. And the next day I did wake up with like bruises on my shins, as if but I remember something holding my legs down.
That's really Judy Green story.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say?
Judith Green's
okay.
Former guest.
Episode 6. Episode 6.
Yeah, exactly the same thing you're describing.
Exactly. Wow.
Her legs down.
Yeah, and I've read other people having similar things, like so the bruising. But I never thought to look for, when I was little, when the experiences were really intense, I never thought to look for marks because it's not something somebody teaches you. At this point, you've been told 1,000 times you're just having a bad dream and nobody's going to believe you anyway. So what are you going to say? Hey, Mom, when you look for scoop marks on me when you don't have that terminology yet? Or needle, like they look like little needle, like almost like a weird needle, but you know.
There's no way to people, go the easiest route. It's a different time back then and people just, don't understand it. So they come up with very simple answers to explain anything away. Mm-hmm. And going back to those marks on your shin and what was going on with Judy and her saying that they were holding her legs down. Also, when Judy was on that table, they had restraints on her legs going around that area. So it could, did you see handprints? What did the bruises look like?
They look like lines. And in my mind, I was seeing something holding me down, or I was feeling like hands were holding me down. But it looked like it didn't seem more than one. So it didn't look, I thought they were handprints from demons at the time, honestly. Because I was still in this whole, like, there's demons too, like, and I had some strange other, like a blue light visitation around that time. And I was alone and I was trying to go back to church. But anytime I would get spiritual with anything, it's like these bad, scary experiences would intensify. And I don't know if I was just setting off a beacon and things were coming back, or, it's hard to say. But this particular night, it felt like something was holding my legs down on my shins. But I told it, I was like, it looked to me like hand marks, hand bruises, but I don't remember seeing, like, when somebody grabs you, like it's like the individual fingers. I don't remember seeing fingers.
It was just seemed like the palm.
Yeah. Yep.
Which could be a
strap.
Clamp,
now that you're saying, yeah.
Or a clamp.
Yeah.
Or something like that. That's wow. That's interesting. Very interesting. So, wow. A lot to take in, right? It's your story. You had to live through this. I'm sorry that you had to go through all this. And one last thing before I ask another question for you.
Sure.
For the most part, you went a very long time not talking about your first UFO sighting. When was the first time you told someone about that experience?
It was kind of behind the scenes, and it was on Instagram. When I found, like, the whole Instagram UFO community, I was talking to a guy that became my friend, and I don't know what we were talking about, but I had mentioned it to him, and then I tried to draw it, and I showed it to his mom, and then she drew, it's actually probably do you know the Josh and Artemis show? So it's a newer show, but the guy Josh, I was his friend before they were Josh and Artemis. So he was probably the first person I told as an adult. I had mentioned it to my husband, and some of the other sightings I saw. Like I saw something going to California one time, and like I've seen other things, but that was the one that stood out. But people are just like, "Oh man, that's crazy." Huh. And then it just kept like, so I told him. And then the first time I talked about it publicly was with Steph she has a group called UAP Experiencers. She has a page. So she's all experiencer accounts. She had an account, but she's the first person that I told that put it out on like kind of like her feed. Mm-hmm. And then the first podcast I did was that one time I was abducted by aliens. And I told them everything, like I'm telling you.
Wow!
And those girls were so great. Like I have like.
When was this? The Instagram thing and that interview?
Last year.
How long? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I had mentioned to people I'd seen things before, but never to the depth where like.
Full detail.
Yes. Like, yeah, I seen UFOs. I saw them when I was 5. This happened, and like stuff like that, but never like telling the whole thing. And with Steph, I only told her the one thing. I had told Josh everything. And then I told that one time I was abducted by aliens girls, I told them like everything.
Yeah. So
last year.
once you realized the Great Awakening was happening, you said, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get it out there. Well, if you don't do it now, it's going to be too late. And then you're just going to be saying what everyone already knows.
Right. Well, not only that, like, how can I have a podcast where I hold space for people to talk about what they've been through when I'm not willing to share? That's not fair at all, you know? Tell me your secret. Tell me the thing in your life that made you think that you were going crazy. Like, you thought, like, as a child, you're probably going to be sent to a crazy house. Tell me about that time. Oh, well, I don't want to tell you anything about me, you know?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, Josh, when are we going to hear you on here? No one knows anything about you. We will eventually, but yeah, you're right, because you do, and that I want to lead to that. I want to make sure that everyone has a way to contact you and reach out to you, because what you're doing, I've watched a lot of your episodes, podcasts on Quantum Witch Cafe here on YouTube, and really amazing people you got in there, some top-notch people, and you're also going over some really good literature as well, great books, great information, really calm vibes. I really like your guest. I've heard about people I've never heard about, but then I start doing research, and I'm like, oh wow, they're up in this, like they're deep, and I'm like, wow. So I really encourage everyone to go check out her information. And Priscilla, if you can, for us, tell people out there what you're doing in different places they can get a hold of you.
Okay, yeah, sure. So the best way to get a hold of me is either Twitter, direct message, or Instagram, and I have the messaging open, so you should be able to message freely. Both of my handle on there is at quantum_witch. Witch is spelled WYTCH. And that's the best way to get a hold of me. And on there, I'll have my link tree to my YouTube channel, which is Quantum Witch Cafe. And what that is I always say this, it's a safe place to talk about anything paranormal, fringe, strange, UFO, UAP. For the fancy people that are like, oh, it's only UAP, like those people can come too. And just, I'm starting to hold more of like a space for experiencers of all things, not just UFOs, but paranormal activity, a poltergeist, or a visitation from grandpa that's been dead for 20 years is also just as freaky to some people as seeing a UFO. So anything weird, basically, you can come talk about. I also hold a monthly book club. The books are always UFO related. So I do that once a month with a panel.
That's awesome. I've seen those. Amazing stuff. Yeah, so everyone, that information will be down in the description, so make sure you check it out, and you will be able to get a hold of her, and hopefully I'll see you over on her channel after you subscribe. You'll see me probably in there watching sometime. So I hope everyone goes over there, and Priscilla, I just want to thank you for, sharing your story and getting it out there, and more importantly, you and I and Josh, we all have stories, right? Mm-hmm. But what you're doing for others, that's what it's all about. And Absolutely. You're helping people get out there and share their experiences, their knowledge, their years of research on these subjects. And I greatly appreciate that I'm not alone in the disclosure community, because I can't do it by myself. Josh can't. Elena can't. You can't. No one can do it by themselves, because there's too much of it.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your work that you're doing. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. I wish this could go on a lot longer.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you guys are amazing.
But yeah, so I appreciate it. And Josh, any final words?
Are you still going through sleep paralysis?
It's been a long time. I had one event last year. Actually, the day after I had Geraldine Orozco on, that night I had one. And it was super freaking weird. and I was able to kind of like come to terms with it. But it was, again, one of those things where the sleep paralysis almost happened and I was like knocked unconscious in a way. I didn't have time to step in and do what I like to do normally to try and fight it off or whatever. So that happened last year. I don't remember the exact date, but it was not too long ago. It feels like it wasn't too long ago. Maybe it was, but that was the last like sleep paralysis thing that I had.
Interesting. Wow. So yes, a little factor there at the end. It's still going on, and I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Thank you so much. Once again, Priscilla, thank you for everything you're doing and sharing your story. And I hope that you will continue to use that inner light to protect your inner self, higher self, astral, whatever people call it. And I wish you the best of luck with your channel and everything you're doing. And I'm glad that you are a part of We Are the Disclosure. Let's do this job. Let's get her done.
Yes. Yes.
So we'll see you all next time. Have a wonderful night. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Later.
Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to set a reminder for up-and-coming videos. If you have had an experience, please email us at orderoflight777@gmail.com or wearethedisclosure88@gmail.com. If you would like to contact our special guests, information can be found in the description. Make sure to check out the We Are the Disclosure podcast radio on Anchor FM. For additional information, socials, and online store, go to the Direct Me link in the description. Whistleblowers, experiencers, and contactees of all backgrounds, now is the time to come forward. Please subscribe, share, and give the video a big thumbs up. We are not waiting for the disclosure. We are the disclosure. See you next time.